Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the effective management of health and safety in construction. It's a really important topic for us to discuss, so I'm really excited to be a part of it. Obviously, even though construction industry's performance has improved a lot over the past decade in this area, there's still plenty of room to move. So I'd like to introduce myself as today's chair. I'm Jordan Marshall, Chief Reporter and Special Projects Editor at Building. And as I said, I'm really delighted to be chairing the session on what I think is a really important topic for us to be discussing. First of all, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. Carrie Sprostinova, Operations Director for Health, Safety and Wellbeing at Mace, and Matt Ryan, UK Country Manager at PlanRadar. So Carrie joined Mace earlier this year from Balfour Beatty, having spent 5 years, I think, with Balfour. Before this, she spent 14 years at the Health and Safety Executive, where she was Principal Inspector. So plenty of experience in this field, really excited to have her expertise, particularly as in her role, Carrie's at Mace, she's heavily involved in helping eliminate risk from the earlier stages of projects. Particularly, there's at Mace a focus on including offsite manufacturing and other modern methods of construction to improve safety. So really, really great insights there. And as for Matt is not only the country manager for the UK, but also for Sweden, and meaning that he's in charge of two of PlanRadar's most competitive markets. With a career that started in commercial real estate, Matt has 20 years of experience in all these areas. So we're really excited to have his expertise on the call today as well. So for today's session, just to run through a few logistics, each of our speakers is going to give an introductory presentation before coming together for a question and answer session that we'd love to invite our audience to get as involved in as you want to. So please send through those questions at any point. We will try and cover as many of them off as we can. I'll be managing those, so send them through. As soon as one pops into your mind, send them through and we'll try and cover them all off. Finally, I'd just like to flag, because this is one question that we always get a lot of, is that yes, the session will be available on demand once it's concluded, about 30 minutes afterwards. We'll still be free, so if you want to rewatch any of it, if you want to recommend it to a colleague after it finishes, it'll be available via the same link you've joined today, free and on demand. So I think without further ado, I'll pass things over to our first speaker, Carrie. I'm just going to share my screen. So just give me 1 second and I will. Is that all fine?
Yeah, brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant, no worries. I'll just turn my mic off and camera off and Carrie, away you go.
Brilliant, thank you, Jordan, and thank you for the introduction. And as Jordan says, I've been with Mace now for 4 months. Really exciting opportunity to join them and to speak with you today about what we're doing about health and safety improvement, and of course what the industry is doing. So if I can ask for the next slide, please, Jordan. Thank you. So I think it was really important to kind of set out the improvements that the industry have made over the last few years, and we see those kind of year-on-year improvements. And the regulatory framework in terms of the Health and Safety Executive and the CDM regulations have been a big lead for that industry change. But I wanted to set out that it's not the only leader for change in our industry. And I think what we have as an industry is a network and communication and collaboration that works between all of us through forums such as Build UK, the Health and Construction Leadership Group. And it's how we work together as an industry that will help us really see those changes. In addition to the framework of regulation, there is also the wider knowledge and understanding of the interaction of human factors and behavioural safety. And as an industry, we've been working on those things for a number of years. And it takes into consideration, as you can see there, the sort of people that we work with, and recognising that we have multiple languages in our industry, people from diverse backgrounds, and all about how we communicate with them, and recognising that when we're doing very extensive risk assessments, method statements perhaps, it's how we translate that to the people who are out on the ground doing the work and make sure that that information is of use to them. And the last picture, for me, is about the psychological safety and the culture of our industry and how we create a safe space for people willing and wanting to speak up about what's wrong and how it make a difference. And we saw lots of that during COVID, actually, because this was a learning point for us all. And some of the people who were best placed to tell us how it felt was those people who were on the ground at the coalface of our construction sites. We've done a lot of work on mental health and well-being in our industry. And again, I think that's helped for the platform for change. Next slide, please, Jordan. So this for me is about embedding health and safety, and traditional health and safety gone by has been really about audits and inspections and spending time out on the ground. But actually, health and safety and well-being and the importance of improvements that we're making is about us understanding that we have to embed health and safety throughout every element of the work that we do. And that goes into the design, the planning, the bidding stages. And actually, the best effective change in health and safety can come before a spade hits the ground, as they say. So recognising about how we get involved in those conversations and in general leadership, because good health and safety is good leadership and good management. There's also a piece for me about understanding how we work as teams. And there's been some interesting studies done and through the Formula One teams who are saying that since they've had a more diverse and inclusive team, they have seen a difference and improvement in safety. And I think definitely we can learn from that as an industry as well. The more diverse our industry is, the better we will be at striving for change. Next slide, please. So competence, learning and collaboration are fundamental to continuing the improvements in construction. And I started by talking about COVID and perhaps the learnings that we've done on that and how we came together as an industry. And I do believe that the construction industry led the way on that, helping to write the guidance with support from the CLC and Build UK. It's important that we keep learning and understanding and recognising that there are challenges faced by the teams that are working out on the ground and also as leaders. The Building Safety Bill is looking very much at competence, and there are a committee on competence taking place, and it's important that we embed the learning through that process against the whole piece of competence. So we've got great training courses, SMSTS, Triple STS, for example. We've got the CSCS cards, but again, they're just the platform. We need people on the ground to understand the why. We need them to understand why we're asking them to do that. And actually the place setting from the Grenfell Tower, I think does help people understand the why in terms of the Building Safety Bill. It is also about leadership skills. So for example, a lot of our supervisor black hat community come from the tools, which is fantastic because it means they know how to do the work. But how do we help and assist them to taking that next step into being a supervisor, to not walking by, to setting people to work safely? And we need to make sure we as an industry work together to collaborate, because the majority of our work is delivered through our supply chain. And actually the supply chain that work for us with Mace will work for a number of other large contractors in our industry. So should we come together and look at a programme for supervisors across the industry? The collaboration piece is also fundamental, and as I say, we did a lot through COVID, but Teams and technology is really enabling that, because it was quite difficult to get the industry together in a room, but actually we have the facility now through technology to make that really simple. Next slide, please, Jordan. Thank you. So my last slide is really about that technology, and the technology works for us in a number of different ways. So first of all, I think it will encourage young people to want to come into our industry because they're seeing construction in a very different light. We're using, from a health and safety point of view, technology in a number of ways. You can see here the virtual reality. So how can we bring out the training courses using virtual reality and put people in real life scenarios? Perhaps if you're lifting into place a very difficult staircase or something similar, actually you can mock that scenario up for the crane operator through virtual reality in advance. There's also a piece around real world technology. COVID pushed us into places where we had to work remotely. So things like real world technology enable people to be out on site and people in offices to actually see what's going on, to take part in briefings, stand downs without actually coming and interrupting the site. And because of that, I think people are more inclined to do it. We've also got the introduction of QR code technology, which is helping on things like inspection and checks through the quality forum as well as the health and safety forum. And I know that this will be fundamental as part of how we have digital records and keep digital records, which will have photographs, in particular of things like voids, where we then close it up. We'll be able to take the photograph of what that looks like in advance. We are also looking at predictive analytics. So how do we foresee where the next incident may take place. And those analytics aren't necessarily just health and safety data, but we'll be able to capture that data from a whole raft of information, including competence and experience of teams that are working on site, weather, program pressures. We learn a lot through learning about COVID, about how we plan that work. And I think technology is really going to help lead the way in that. There is a piece for us, though, that says all the technology that we're putting on sites today are about helping to mitigate the risk, but what we want to do is eliminate the risk and design out the risk. So how can we work with modern methods of construction and off-site manufacture? And I know that is something that Mace are certainly doing. You can see here a picture of our Mace Tech factory, and there's a lot of off-site solutions taking place. It's important to understand that that doesn't eliminate the risk completely. It changes the risk on site. There'll be a lot more lifting, but we can manage the workplace with less people and more planning as a result of looking at off-site solutions, and they're fundamental to us in the future. I think technology is being embraced in the construction industry, and is about encouraging apprentices and graduates to come forward and help us develop that next stage of the construction industry and what it looks like. Thank you very much, Jordan. That is my last slide.
Brilliant, thank you so much. That was a great way to kick things off. Matt, I'll just get your slides up here.
Thank you, Jordan.
Sorry, Is that fine for everyone?
For me.
Brilliant. I'll hand over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Kara. That was really insightful, and I look forward to picking your brains a little bit more after my presentation. Just very quickly, I'll introduce the attendees to Plan Radar. I'll probably, perhaps some of you are less familiar with this than you might be with Mace. We are a business that's been established for 8 years now, based in Vienna. I'm the country manager in the UK, and in short, we're a business that's always been centred on saving its clients time, money, and the prospect actually of litigation. And we do that quite simply by streamlining processes and leaving a time-stamped audit trail through the life cycle of any project and built environment. But today, I think we're all here to look at saving something much more important than money and time. That is injury and risk and life at the end of the day. And our technology is one of the ways in which we can support people like Carrie in the industry in general in that environment. So I'll just speak to you briefly about how we do that by going on to the next slide, please, Jordan. Sorry, Jordan, can you hear me? Perfect, thank you.
Yep. I think it might just take a second for them to show up for you. I had pressed it, so just give us a second if there's a lag.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, I mean, just a few headlines here. Health and safety is too important to ignore. You know, I talked about saving money and mistakes, oversight, cutting corners. It is expensive in many ways, financially, physically, and to the progress of any project. And it's little things, the very smallest things that can get missed along the way that can cause these issues going forwards. I don't need to talk about this in too much more detail, just really to sort of highlight some of the issues that can occur and some of the things that get picked up along the way and retrospectively in the life cycle of a project. So next slide, please, Jordan. Thank you. Yeah, we are improving for sure, and there's a graph shortly that will demonstrate that as well, but ultimately there's still far too many issues occurring in construction. 81,000 workers is 81,000 too many. 39 fatal injuries is 39 fatal injuries too many. So we are improving, but we'll never improve enough until that figure gets down to zero. You know, I think the expression accidents happen is loosely bandied around, but we're here to make sure that as much as we can that they don't. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as I said, there's a graph here that shows over the course of the last we've got here, 21 years. That is a significant and marked improvement across the industry, and I'd say that the UK follows the other markets pretty closely. I'd say again that that's largely down to technology supporting all of those markets. It's processes will improve, but they improve as a result of technology, innovation, and forward-thinking processes. So we are in a good position in the UK, largely in line with the other markets, but figure, as I say previously, needs to get much closer to zero as quickly as possible. Thank you. Next slide, please, Jordan. So why do issues occur? I think Carrie touched on a few scenarios. Ultimately, we all feel the pressure to rush work and meet deadlines. That's just not in construction. I think that's in any environment. I feel that myself at the moment, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, lack of interest perhaps in investing in safety training, the passing of responsibility down a chain of contractors, site workers not taking risks seriously due to the lack of knowledge, and knowledge is obviously very, very important in any working environment, none more so than health and safety. But success requires buy-in from the whole team and to understand fewer incidents equals a successful project. Issues raised need to be taken seriously, and we need to have instant access to specific forms to report these incidents as quickly as possible. These processes have to be available immediately, they have to be live. Anything that anybody sees, they need to feel that at any level on a construction site that they can A, be comfortable in reporting it, B, be able to do so very quickly and very simply, and C, that it's going to be acted upon quickly. Next slide, please, Jordan. So the fundamentals, we like to call them at Plan Radar, are inherent across construction, as they are in health and safety. Transparency is key, accuracy of information and issue recording is key, simplicity of doing that is key, and the knowledge that comes out of that and what you do with it is important, and how it's shared. Next slide, please. So how can software support those processes? Well, transparency, software can create tamper-proof audit trails and a clear assigning of responsibility. I describe our platform sometimes as the black box for the built environment. Every activity is recorded throughout the life cycle of a project. So there can be no ambiguity when it comes to sort of culpability and compliance. Carrie mentioned, I noted that embedding health and safety at every stage is important, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. So from before a spade's in the ground, before a pen is on an architect's sketching sheet, bring that space into a technological environment, analyze it and record every step from that first point to the end of a project and beyond. I spoke to one of my colleagues the other day who described us as supporting projects, until handover, until they're finished, and post handover in a guarantee environment, but with building safety good as well, as Karen mentioned. Once that information has been input at every step of the journey, it's there in perpetuity. It's there 12 years down the line. If there's, God forbid, some horrendous issue in that building, you can go back through that audit trail and see at every step, every stage of design, pre-construction, construction, and handover, what's happened, when it was done, who it was done by, where it was done, and was it done in compliance, and was it done properly. So, yeah, embedding at every stage is very, very important. Next slide, please. And so we support that by allowing people on the ground to input that information, the people who are seeing it, the people who are in those environments, spotting a risk, seeing a near miss, making sure that all the right forms are being completed, the COSH, the RAMs, the hot works, working at heights, near misses, they're there in somebody's pocket. They can pull out their mobile phone, they can record it, they can complete that form, sign it on site. It's there. If there's an injury, they can accurately record it, photograph the video of the environment, so that, as I say, that audit trail supports the process and makes sure that it doesn't happen again. Next slide, please, Jordan. And this is really just a graphic to show how that works. So the GPS location, images, video, plan, position, description of the issue, everything that happens can go in through a mobile phone or a tablet into a central database. It can then be pulled out to any kind of report, those that I mentioned. I mean, in terms of building safety as well, fire stopping reports, which is obviously key again to Grenfell, as Karen mentioned, statistics to help people spot trends, identify recurring issues, and obviously improve them, and that timestamps audit trail, as I say. Every time something occurs in the life cycle of an environment, it's that entry is written and it's there forever. The golden thread of communication is added to, and that transparency is improved upon, and the information is stored securely forever. So it can be analysed, extrapolated, and reported in seconds. Next slide, please, Jordan. So I'm sure many of you have seen this quote referenced in various presentations on health and safety over the years. And I'll be quite honest with you, aside from safety expert, as she's noted, I'm not entirely sure who Eleanor is, but it is a good adage, and she's quite right in what she says. It is a state of mind rather than a gadget. However, technology like airbags and smoke detectors is a gadget that continues to improve the way we put that state of mind into practice and needs to get better and better at doing that as we go forwards. And that's me. Thank you, Jordan.
No worries. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Oh, there we go. I think that's all stopped now. Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, both of you, for really insightful kickoff. We've had some questions coming in, but to our audience, we've got plenty of time, so please send through as many questions as you want to. I think I'll kick things off. We've had a question come in for you, Carrie, about what kind of tech have you adopted since working remotely in COVID, and do you imagine you'll see more and more? You mentioned QR codes. Have you considered NFC tags as well?
Yeah, so I think we are just really looking at all different sorts of technology that can make our lives easier out on site, but also keep better records and enable our teams on the ground to have the information that they need. And I think it's about not increasing and putting in technology for technology's sake, if that makes sense, but just really where it adds value. Because it's very simple for people to say, oh, let's give you all this technology, but actually we've got to embed it and use it and make sure, I guess, evaluate it to make sure that it is adding value at the grassroots. So we put a number of technology in, particularly over COVID, as has everyone. So Teams, Zoom meetings, and all those things have made life and collaboration and communication much simpler. And then on the ground, as I say, we have the technology in terms of like cameras and things, so we can see a bit more visibility rather than actually having to be out on site. And even though we have moved into the new ways of working, there is no better influence, I think, than actually some of the leadership getting out on site. But we don't want to do that all the time. It's really important that we minimise the amount of footfall that there is through visitors. So the technology is enabling us to do some of the visits remotely.
Brilliant. Okay, then we've got one here for you, Matt, that's coming from one of our audience members, asking sort of what would you see as like the big points of difference between like PlanRadar's tech in this sort of arena than its competitors? Like how does it sort of stand out?
I think every platform has its merits. I think our strongest points of difference really are the intuitiveness and the ease of use of our platform, which, we talk about on average, we can onboard, like I say, the on-the-ground users, the people who are really the eyes and ears of any site, and the people who are actually in these environments. Takes 10 minutes to get to use our platform because it's very, very simple to use. And, as I would say I was in a sales meeting, but ultimately in this environment as well, your data, and that's what's important here, is the data and how we record it and analyze it and improve our process. Your data is only as good as the people that enter it and the way that data goes in. And so if you want a labourer to be on the ground for you, you need to make it easy for him, as I said, to record information and feel like he can be part of that process. So yeah, I think the intuitiveness and ease of use of the software, And as well, I think one of the benefits over some of our competitors is the fact that our software works entirely offline as well. So if you're in a subterranean environment, or if you're you're not in 3G signal, you can continue to record that information effectively, and then once you touch data, it's re-uploaded to the cloud. So I think that's probably a key point of it.
Brilliant. Ooh, sorry, I don't know if that was my. Anyway, so this one, I've got a couple of questions from myself that I've drawn out from your guys' presentation, so I might just jump in with one of mine. Carrie, I was sort of wondering if you might be able to outline some of the challenges with making these sorts of health and safety reforms effective within construction businesses, I guess with both on and off-site staff, and how those can be overcome.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Jordan, and there's no silver bullet, as they say. There's lots of different small elements, and it's about those incremental gains, and I think that's what we've seen over the period. For me, it is about collaboration and helping the leadership of the business, because we have to start there, understanding that health and safety is part of every element, and it isn't an add-on. So it's about changing that mindset, and I do think that makes understand that, so we don't necessarily have full-time health and safety professionals on every site all the time, because actually the ownership of health and safety is in with the operational team. So we're there to help support and guide them, but it's everybody's responsibility. And then it's about working with the supply chain, as I said, because fundamentally a large portion of our work is delivered by our supply chain partners. We're really fortunate at Mace to have our business school where we invite our supply chains to come along and be part of that, and we're part of the upskilling. So we've done some recent things on the building safety bill, for example, and it helps them to be part of the conversation. We don't have all the answers, so actually it's very much a collaboration. And then the teams out on the ground, I think it's really about that why. I think you can help them understand why you're asking them to do something and why you're trying to keep them safe. It isn't a kind of regulatory framework that we're trying to say you must do this or you must do that. This is about engaging with them and helping them be part of the solution.
Brilliant. While you've been speaking, we've had a couple of questions in asking about how you share that knowledge through the subcontractors and supply chain. So I think you've sort of answered that in that answer. So that's great. So to those people who've asked those questions, if you wanted more detail, send through another one, but I think we've ticked those off for now. Matt, do you have any?
As well on that, sorry, Jordan, and highlight, that supply chain and those subcontractors. That's exactly as I keep saying, this transparency and this golden thread of communication, and the importance of everybody communicating on a site in a collaborative way. The centralized communication is key, and that's why we support people like Carrie Mason, and big contractors and small contractors, but the people who are employing hundreds, if not thousands, of supply chain workers, subcontractors, can all invite them into these platforms, our platform, in fact free of charge, as subcontractors don't pay a penny, to be on the site communicating risks and issues to you, and being your eyes on the ground again with COVID and keeping footfall down. It's another easy way for people to be on the site without being on the site, because the people that are on the site that have to be there to do the work are communicating back up through that chain, back up to Carrie and the people responsible for them, free of charge and very, very simple. So I think that's important too.
Brilliant. So another thing that I just sort of wanted to ask about is we've both of you touched on how things have improved. Construction has always been a traditionally dangerous industry, and things are improving despite the fact that it still is comparatively dangerous to other sectors. So what do you sort of think are the biggest factors driving that improvement, and do you think they've changed over the past 5 years, 2 years, 12 months? Anyone want to go first in particular, or?
Don't mind that. If you want to go first, I'm happy, or I will.
You go, Karen.
Yeah, so I think as I said, there's no one silver bullet, unfortunately. But one of the things I think has really changed, and COVID's pushed that a lot on is the collaboration between the industry, because that's where we'll really see change. So if you look at the improvements in the Formula One industry over the years since Ayrton Senna's death, actually they will liken that to the reason that the success has come because that all industry's been in it together, and that they have collaborated and come up with improvements. And COVID very much saw that, because health and safety shouldn't be competitive. This is about sending people that work in our industry home safely. So how we shared the knowledge and learnings around COVID and put together the guidance. And then we did the questionnaire and survey around actually, what worked really well. And we've got those learnings. Our challenge now is to embed those learnings and not just take that when we get really busy. So to take all those learnings and say, okay, how do we keep those? Now we're going back almost to full capacity on our sites. And then I say the key collaboration isn't just as an industry against the larger contractors, it is also with our supply chain, because we don't have all the answers, and just keeping that communication open.
Matt, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think communication can be a word that's going to come up a lot in this session, but it is very, very important. I think the improvements of technology is certainly a driver of improvement, as it is in most ways of life. I think sadly there is a certain reality that disasters, tragedies, and terrible events actually cause real shift changes in health and safety in particular. I mean, obviously when those things happen, we've mentioned Grenfell, when those things happen, it's a real step back. Everybody, as Carrie says, everybody gets together and says, this is not acceptable, this is not good enough. We need to fix this. We need to make sure it never, ever, ever, ever happens again. And that communication between people like Carrie and myself and the contractors and technology supporters and public sector and the government, but also with, as Carrie said, their team on the ground, their subcontractors, our clients. We work to support our clients, not in any other way. So having that conversation and everybody pulling in the same direction, which I think is really happening at the moment, are all significant factors in that improvement.
So, I mean, sorry, I cut you off there at the end. I was going to say, so we've talked about tech in that sense, but then there's also the other big technological shift in construction is the adoption of modern methods of construction, and DFMA and that sort of thing. How much of an impact has that had on improving health and safety, but also like how much will that now interact with these other further technologies that can be implemented to enhance things further? Maybe if we go reverse this time, Matt, if you want to go first and then Carrie next.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think everything works hand in hand, right? The first thing is identifying, recognizing the issue, then everybody talking about what needs to change, what needs to stop, and then technology can support that in terms of manufacturing, in terms of production, in terms of process, in terms of the equipment that's used on site, in terms of how that equipment feeds into the overall communication piece, and that centralized communication ultimately, again, to get that data that you need, continue to be able to monitor it, spot things before they happen, and make sure they don't. And, I think that's just, that's what's great about technology in the modern era, is that everything talks to everything, and that allows you foresight rather than after sight, if you like.
Completely. That makes a lot of sense. Carrie?
Yeah, I guess for me, I don't know what the percentage of off-site manufacture is currently in the industry, but it's small, I would imagine, compared to the traditional builds. But we'll see that shift getting ever bigger. I think it's about, as I say, recognizing that type of construction will eventually eliminate the risk. But in the meantime, it's about our learning. And whenever you start to introduce something new, I think the mindset has to be that it doesn't eliminate the risk, it changes the risk. It does, however, allow for a lot greater planning, because it has to. And we see that planning sensibly and safely is part of the success of good health and safety. So I think that will fundamentally drive that. There's a challenge for us as health and safety professionals, though, because again, it's a very different concept of health and safety on a construction site versus health and safety in manufacturing. So again, there's some learning for us and upskilling for us to do. And we'll do that collectively, but also, through experience and over time, and we'll see what the impacts are.
Brilliant. We've had another question come in for you, Matt. sort of in relation to a similar question that we had for Carrie earlier, but have you seen companies, more companies interested in using PlanRadar and that sort of software post-COVID?
Yes, we have. Well, we saw a spike in interest during COVID in the first instance, because again, as I say, people can be at the site without being at the site, have access to what's going on as and when it happens, and that's recorded. So yeah, during COVID we saw a spike. I mean, we're seeing lots of spikes in lots of different areas for a variety of different reasons at the moment. Fire stopping companies are using our platform in much greater quantity now. The building safety bill, again, I'll talk about this audit trail, the black box of your project, which is another topic for the webinar last week with various people to talk about that. So the platform is now, the business is in its 8th year. It was originally founded by a project manager. Really, the issues that he identified at the time were the broken communication, and bringing that and centralising that and making sure that everybody's working from the latest information, all-time live information. If the plans change, everybody is updated immediately. And obviously that now, 8 years down the line, both ourselves and our partners and our clients and our big contractors now and our people who are just doing a lot of conversion are all coming to us and saying, "Oh, it'd be great if we could do this, it'd be great if we could do this." And also the software evolves to the extent that now we're seeing different spikes for different reasons across the board, really. It's a great time to be at PlanRadar.
No, that doesn't surprise me. Just quickly covering off anybody who missed it at the start, because we've had this come through a few times. Yes, it'll be available on demand. You can watch it afterwards. Probably give us about 45 minutes to turn the video around once it finishes, but same link, still free. Share with your companies, share with your colleagues, and it'll all be up there for you. Another question we have had come through is this. It's for Carrie in the first instance, but I'm keen to get thoughts from Matt as well. Someone's asked for an example of like about the process of implementing an intervention and how that can sort of be done in a non-confrontational, is the way I will phrase it, a non-confrontational manner. On
intervention when something's gone wrong, is that what they're...
Yeah, or something that a new addition to the health and safety management system, I guess, that the way that you're managing risk on a site or that sort of thing.
Okay, I think there's loads of different scenarios, and it's about reading what that scenario is. So it's probably difficult and hard to give a one answer. If I think about kind of where we've had some challenges on a site and done an intervention where we're bringing in some different solutions, some of which might cost more money, some of which require a different way of working. For me, that is about sitting down with every of the parties involved and talking to them about the why. Now, if it comes after an incident, a bit like Matt was saying about Grenfell, the platform for that discussion is already there, so it's slightly easier. But nevertheless, it's about whether it's an incident related or just you want to implement something new. It's about helping people understand that why, what we're trying to do and to strive for change. And I think one of the things the construction industry does really well is that we fix things and we try and make things better. And actually we have a state of mind of constantly trying to improve. That's as an industry. So I think, if you can get people to understand the why and you can talk to them on that platform and help them be part of the solution and come up with ideas, I think there is, a challenge if you've got as a tier 1 contractor to go and say we have all the answers. We absolutely don't. We have a good knowledge of the broad spectrum because we work with lots of different people, and that is our strength. But to enable our supply chain to be part of the solution, to enable the individuals to be part of the solution, the clients and technology companies, then for me it is about that. It's about engaging with people in the why and helping them to come up with a solution. I hope that answers that question.
I think so. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Again, I wholeheartedly agree with Carrie. I would just say it's about intervention. It's not about telling people what they need to do. It's about asking them how things need to be changed to improve things for their benefit and everybody everybody else's. So yeah, it's about empowering them and enabling them to feed back to you, give you that information that you want, and find a solution that works best for them, ideally designed by them.
So one of the things that someone in the questions has flagged is that they've had issues, not with health, like in a health and safety context, but more broadly with getting on-site staff to embrace some new tech, whether that's specifically health and safety or, you know, other project management tools or whatever. But obviously we're speaking health and safety, so let's stick to that for now. Do either of you have any advice for how, you know, getting, obviously you're talking about, you know, showing them what it does for them, how to get them on board, but is there any way to sort of, you know, get more old school mindset to go digital, I guess is a way of putting that?
I mean, I don't want to keep sort of banging this drum about ease of use, but that's the most important thing first and foremost. I was going to actually add to what the previous topic was about intervention, about getting people involved. I was speaking with the contractors in Liverpool a couple of weeks ago. We're getting very, very excited about getting up and running with the platform, and they were talking about, you know, building competitions and dashboards for people, the people that report the most incidents, the people that are feeding into the software the most. They can put a report and say, oh, you know, Jeff's highlighted 37 issues this week, he's top of the league. You know, I don't know what he gets, a bag of Haribo the afternoon off or whatever it may be, or just a pat on the back, I don't know. But yeah, that's a great way to get that kind of culture going, you know, get the competitive juice flowing, so to speak. But yeah, I just think make it easy, work with them, evolve the system around them, and yeah, make them feel part of the process.
Brilliant. Carrie, did you have any additions?
Yeah, I think I obviously agree with what Matt's saying, and I love the idea of maybe some Haribo or something. So for me, celebrating success is really important. So as an industry, we have, you know, we do have incidents, we do have issues, and we have things that go wrong, and we have to learn lessons, and we have to, you know, share that. But we also do some amazing things, and it's really important that we do that celebrating success. So in answer to this question, I think it is about getting a pilot running, so a couple of key people on each site to test and trial the equipment, and to then let it be them that sells it to the other people, rather than, so as a safety professional, I come and say, this is a great piece of kit, I mean, it works really well, but actually I don't do the day job. So it's really important to have those kind of first followers, I guess, who've trialed the equipment and who can speak to its value directly to their peers. And I would suggest that in those test pilot sessions that you pick some of the people who are really good at technology, but also perhaps some of the people who are a bit more resistant, actually, because if you can win them over through a pilot, then they will be your biggest advocates.
An advocate on the inside.
Exactly.
This one's for me. So obviously we've had a chat about how much things have improved, some of the ways, you know, the things are continuing to improve, some of the interventions that can be made. But what can sort of be done, you know, across the sector to make sure that that pace of change is maintained? We've all spoke about how COVID's been a driver of tech uptake and that sort of thing. How do we make sure that sort of doesn't, you know, peter off and everyone just revert to as was as things return to normal?
I'll happily go first, Jordan. I think Carrie hit the nail on the head earlier. I don't think we need to really do anything to make sure that continues to happen, because the construction industry is a collective environment. And at the end of the day, we all have the same goals. We all want to make the best built environments. You know, obviously, occasionally some people want to make some profit from doing it if they can, but we all want to keep people safe. We all want to keep people well, and so that drive for change already exists. I don't see it falling away anytime soon. Obviously, there are very serious legislative reasons that people have to do that anyway. But even if they weren't in place, I feel like the environment has that inherently within it do that. And technology, again, it exists to improve things. And again, it exists to make money. And to do that, that has to get better and better and better and better and better all the time. So I don't think there's any need particularly to push that change. I just think there's a way to continue to keep it on a very steep upward curve as best we can.
Brilliant. Carrie, did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think our challenge is to, we've been quite focused on COVID, but for all the right reasons, our challenge is to take those learnings and embed them into the wider industry challenges. And even go back to some of the topics that I know we've been working on for a really long time, like work at height or people plant interface, but to take the knowledge and learnings that we've gathered through the momentum of COVID and put them into those different topics. I think that will be the success of challenging ourselves to keep learning.
Brilliant. We've also had a few questions come in that are quite specific about cost inquiries and technical inquiries about Plan Radar specifically, which I think might be best if they're passed on to Matt and the team offline, if that's fine with you, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because they're like quite technical, and I think it might derail the conversation between you and Carrie a little bit. But we have had one come in about sort of people. We've had a question come in asking about the use of tech obviously has been a major driver, but do you think that, like your quote, the quote that you put up during your presentation, Matt, how much of it is mindset change within the sector that's important as opposed to just the technical ability to do it easier?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand, first and foremost. And as I say, I think, unfortunately, and it is, anybody's at fault for this, but significant events, bad events, bring about change and bring about a state of mind. And I think, I don't think anybody before Grenfell, for example, didn't care, but it's just that realization that is brought about by things like that happening, resulting in a change of mind. And yeah, technology is here to support it rather than be the driver of it, in my opinion.
Of course. Carrie?
Yeah, I completely agree. Hand in hand is a really good way of describing it. I think the younger generations that come into our industry are going to drive that change anyway. And I think so it's a mixed piece of getting them to want to come to our industry. So we need the technology to want them to come in the first place, and to show them all the technology that we've got. But equally then, the more that the younger generations, the apprentices, the graduates come into our industry, the more they'll help us develop that innovation and technology to change the future of our industry. So I think the success will drive itself through the youth, but it has to be driven from the top. So it's no good bringing technology in that people don't then use, or they use the tiniest part of it. Because actually the success of a system is a holistic system, I think, and making sure it works with other things, because you can bring in technology that then is counterproductive because it doesn't work with another piece of technology. So like you would have a communications plan for communicating with the supply chain, you almost need a technology plan. So to make sure everyone's technology works together and is in sync, and we're not, trying to reinvent the wheel as individuals.
Brilliant. We've had another couple of questions come in about costs and stuff about the app. So maybe I will just ask you, Matt, because it seems to be that's what the key question is. So we've had, and it's obviously not a one size fits all. There'll be different products and that sort of thing. But sort of how much should be firms looking to invest to use your sort of app and software on a project?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm delighted that people are asking, and they're asking for the right reasons, because they want to make their site safer at the end of the day and have that audit trail. But yeah, as a general rule, you have your manager, the person, the administrator, if you like, your health and safety manager in this environment. They would have a license that just costs £20 a week, and then, as I said, your subcontractors and the other people that are inputting that information for you use the software free of charge. So that's basically is kind of a USP, as you asked about earlier with product. But yeah, one license can bring in 300 users, if you like, and all those people are feeding that information in, builds that audit trail, which gives you that visibility and gives you that insight and that overview of what's happening and spot those trends and issues before they occur, ideally.
Brilliant. We've had another question come in for you, Carrie, about the idea of, because you were talking about how you don't have, necessarily a dedicated, health and safety operatives on every site, but someone's asked, with Mace working on such a range of projects, how do you have systems and stuff that work across a variety of schemes, whether it's infrastructure or high-rise buildings or, stadiums, given the breadth of projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I say we do have people who support each project, but they're not necessarily there full time. I think it's about taking the example from the legislative framework, which is you have the basic principles, you have the goal setting, we have the minimum standards, and we have standards that we're trying to achieve. But actually, we encourage the sites to embed those standards whilst continually trying to improve, because that's how we'll learn. So I think the challenge is to enable people enough freedom to keep innovating, but to create a platform so as when they are innovating that there's a feedback loop, so they're sharing those lessons, that we make sure that they are indeed a higher standard, and that we take then and roll them out and create a new standard. So it's about that feedback loop, I think, is really important.
Brilliant. And Matt, does that apply for Plan Radar as well? Is it implementable regardless of the type of project across sectors?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's our software allows you to bring really any space into the platform and centralize that and make that data live across every user very, very simply. There's been a lot of mention of off-site construction, and that's another spike that we've experienced recently is off-site construction, prefabricated bathrooms and rooms and offices and all of these spaces in their production phase. So again, before it's anywhere near the built environment, right from when the steel frame goes in on that bathroom pod to every stage of its build in a factory, to all the QA and everything that happens there, to then recording how it is when it leaves, how it gets there, and so on and so forth. So yeah, any space can come into the platform, and I think, again, Carrie's right. We're here to support people like Carrie and those companies implement these policies, not tell them how it's done. They shape what we do, and so yeah, any environment we're happy to accommodate that.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm conscious of the time, and I just want to give everyone an opportunity to get any last minute questions in. So I thought maybe a nice thing to do as we draw to a close is just to ask you each for sort of 3 big takeaways on the topic. And that gives everyone an opportunity to get any last minute questions in before we come to a close for today. Carrie, do you maybe want to go first?
Yeah, thank you. So I think the 3 big takeaways for me are that the industry working together will really drive that change. And we've got to keep working together, and we've got to take learnings from other industries. Another piece for me is the importance of supervisors and working on the competence of them, helping them not just in the basic principles of health and safety, but the leadership, and helping really sort of drive the setting people to work right and recognising the importance that they play. And lastly, yes, the modern methods of construction and technology are how we will change the industry fundamentally going forward, but recognising that the risk profiling changes, it doesn't necessarily eliminate completely. So making sure as a health and safety community that we are upskilled suitably to be able to support that next change in our industry.
Brilliant. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be easy for me to go, yeah, I just agree with everything Carrie says, and I do. I'm not too much on my own now. So yeah, for me, I think we're all in agreement that obviously health and safety supervision and management is very, very important. But they're not the only people involved in health and safety. The people health and safety is for are the people that we're trying to protect, and they need to be as much a part of the process as possible. So empowering them is very, very important. Staying involved in that conversation with, between people like us and Carrie and off-site developers and technology hardware providers is very, very important. The collective mission statement, if you like, of how we look after people better going forward. And thirdly, a lot of people are asking me, you know, it seems from what you said, Jordan, you know, the price of the software, how much does it cost? And obviously that has to be factored into any business. But when you look at whatever it is, if it's £20 a week, if that saves one injury or one accident, then it's, you know, shouldn't be too much of a consideration. The cost of looking after people, you can't put a price on that as far as I'm concerned.
100% agreed. Less than I spend on coffee in a week, I think. So.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, so I think maybe that's a good place for us to wrap things up for today. I'd like to say a huge thank you to both of you, Carrie and Matt, for your insight and your time. Really appreciate the expertise. I think it's been a really valuable conversation. And I'd also just like to thank Plan Radar for making today possible. We'd also like to say, well, I definitely would like to say a huge thanks to our audience for getting involved. There's been some really great questions coming through, and we really appreciate the engagement and getting involved in what I think has been quite a spirited discussion. While I have everyone, I'd just love to flag that next week is Digital Building Week. So that's a week-long conference across our 3 titles, building design and housing today, that includes a whole host of online events, additional analysis content, week-long live blogs. Please visit any of the home pages to have a look at the program and register for the sessions. They're all free, and as this one will be shortly, because I've just been asked again, available on demand as well. All our webinars, past and future, are available free on demand, so have a look, and there's plenty of stuff there for you. So again, huge thank you to everyone involved today, and goodbye.
Thank you, Jordan.